Bismillah, alhamdulillah, sallallahu sallam wa barak ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd. The last hadith we mentioned last night was hadith 243. The narration of Sahal radiallahu anhu, Sahal ibn Sa'ad al-Sa'idi, regarding the Prophet ﷺ returning from some important business regarding making peace. Naam. And Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu leading the salah. Naam. And the dialogue or the discussion that took place between him and Abu Bakr, and the Prophet ﷺ asking him, why didn't you turn around, why didn't you stay when I told you to stay, etc. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said what he said, and the Prophet ﷺ instructed Abu Bakr and instructed the rest of the Sahaba with regards to when something is incorrect in the salah, something needs to be fixed in the salah, someone's attention needs to be grabbed in the salah. Naam. And that is the tasbih, saying subhanallah for men, and a tasfiq, clapping or hitting one hand on the other for women. Naam. That's where we stopped last night. Naam. And we said that we would take a brief discussion, not in depth, but a brief discussion of the issue of men saying subhanallah and women making the tasfiq, and the difference between a tasfiq and a tasfih. And some of the people of knowledge and some of the ulama of the Arabic language, they say a tasfiq is right hand side to the right hand side, and not to the black hand side like this, as they say. And other ulama, they say rather it is this on this. Okay? Al-Muhim, the Prophet ﷺ, he asked the Sahaba, he says, Mali arakum akthartum. He says, why have you clapped so much? Naam. He says, why have you clapped so much? Naam. And then they said, or after the Prophet asked him this question, he says, Mali ra'aytukum akthartum at-tasfiq. And then he informed them, he says, Man rabahu shay'un, anyone who's doubtful, who makes a mistake, who has an error in his salah, falyusabbih, then let him make the tasbih. فَإِنَّهُ إِذَا سَبَّحَ الْتُفِتَ إِلَيْهِ وَإِنَّمَا التَّصْفِيقُ لِلنِّسَاءِ. Because when you make the tasbih, the person's attention will be grabbed, and tasfiq is only for women. What does this mean? An-Nawawi rahimahullah, let's read what he says briefly, and then we'll comment on it inshallah. He says, وَفِيهِ أَنَّ السُنَّةَ لِمَنْ نَابَهُ شَيْءٌ فِي صَلَاتِهِ كَإِعْلَامِ مَنْ يَسْتَأْذِنُ عَلَيْهِ أو تنبيه الإمام وغير ذلك أن يسبح إن كان رجلا فيقول سبحان الله، وأن تصفق وهو التصفيح إن كانت امرأة فتضرب بطن كفها الأيمن على ظهر كفها الأيسر، ولا تضرب بطن كف على بطن كف على وجه اللعب واللهو، فإن فعلت هكذا على جهة اللعب بطلت صلاتها لمنافته الصلاة. An-Nawawi says, in this hadith, in these narrations, it's the sunnah that anyone who wants to get someone's attention, or something happens, someone seeking permission to enter or something like this, fixing a mistake of the imam, something like this, that the sunnah is to say subhanallah for men. And the sunnah is for women to clap. And then An-Nawawi rahimahullah, he discusses the proper way of clapping. Naam. And then we have the button, and then we have the dhahr, or the batin and the zahir. Batin meaning the inside, innermost part, the belly, and the zahir meaning the back, or the outer part of the hand. Naam. An-Nawawi, he says, فَتَضْرِبْ بَطْنَ كَفِّهَا الْأَيْمَنِ is to take the button, the inner part of her right hand, عَلَى ظَهْرِ كَفِّهَا الْأَيْسَرِ, on the backhand side, black hand side, however you want to word it, of the left. And not to do what? Button ala button. Not like this. Like that. Now listen carefully now. As we already mentioned, and some of the ulama say the exact opposite. That the word tasfiq is different than tasfih. Moving forward. An-Nawawi says, and she shouldn't clap her hands. Listen very carefully, because this will take us to many, many other fiqh issues. She shouldn't clap her hands in a manner, he says what? Al-la'ab wal-lahu, of joking and jesting, of amusement and of play, i.e., he says no. Or someone's dancing, they do what? Clapping. Everybody clear on this? We're going to make no more illustrations. Hopefully it's clear. We all get the point. Naam? He says, if she does that, in that manner, then her salah will be null and void. Rather, just to make a what? A notice. Now, very briefly, this part of the hadith is a very long discussion among the ulama with regards to what it means, and the ins and the outs. Very, very, very detailed discussion in the classical explanations of hadith. All right? The correct view, the sunnah view, is that men should say subhanallah and women should do what the Prophet instructed them to do. However, if a person does this in their salah and does this in their salah, why are they doing that? That's the first question. So a woman who does this, and that's her proper understanding of the hadith when she's been taught, that doesn't mean that she's doing it in a manner of playing and joking. And there's no difference between this and this. Because somebody can do this and be playing around and joking. Everybody understand this? So that's not necessarily strong and clear right there. What's important is the only reason why she's clapping or making any movement with her hands is because of what? The hadith. So that right there is what? Out the window. The only reason why she's moving her hands, this side, that side, is because of the what? Hadith, aslan, regardless whether it's like this or like that. So jihat al-la'bi wal-lahu is not even غير وارد aslan. أنت معي؟ غير وارد aslan. It doesn't even come. Because she's only doing this, not to play around and to joke or to make applause, but because of the Prophet's instruction. So from the get-go, she didn't do it to do what? To play around and make amusement. How she does it, regardless, she can do this, which can make her salat nullified, and she can do this. So that kalam of Nawawi is la. Everybody understand this? Tayyip. Moving forward is, from the fawaid of this hadith, is a proof for those ulama who hold the view that a woman's voice is an awrah. That a woman's voice is awrah. And it is not to be heard by non-mahram men. This hadith supports their argument. Is that what all of the ulama say? Is that the correct view? What do we think about that? It's not the discussion. What's important is this is one of their dalils. Whereas the Prophet ﷺ clearly instructed her not to do what? Say subhanallah. And the explainers of hadith, they say because her voice could be a means of fitna. Everybody understand this? Some ulama, they say that if she's praying with mahram men, then she can say subhanallah. But the Prophet ﷺ never ever what? Made that distinction. Period. All right, moving forward. And that is, what does the Prophet mean by this hadith? That tasbih is for men and tasfiq is for women. Is that an instruction for men to say subhanallah, women to clap? Or is the Prophet telling and informing the Sahaba that men would do this and women normally do that? That's another interpretation of the hadith. And some of the ulama of Islam say that a woman should say subhanallah just like men. And then the Prophet is not saying clap in the salah, but he was only informing the custom of women during that time was to clap when something happens. That's another interpretation. However, there are narrations would give a command. فَلْيُسَبِّحُ الرِّجَالِ وَلْتُصَفِّحُ النِّسَاءِ. The narration says men should say subhanallah and women should make the tasfiq or the tasfiq, the clapping. So that's a command. So that interpretation is not that strong as well. Everybody understand this? Now, one may ask the question, can you say that a woman's voice is awrah? And can you say that this is the wisdom behind this hadith? In which there are other ahadith, other narrations, let alone the Quran, but other narrations which women clearly asked things, and they said things, and they spoke, and they talked to the Prophet ﷺ, to Umar, to the other companions. Everybody understand that? So that's not the topic of our discussion. The voice of a woman is an awrah or not. What's important is to mention, مِمَّا يُسْتَفَادُ مِنْ هَذَا الْحَدِيثِ. From what is benefited and taken from this hadith is those who say that her voice should not be heard by non-mahram men for the purpose of fitna, for the purpose of iftitan. Everybody clear on this or not? Now, obviously, whether it is or whether it isn't an awrah, of course there has to be a balance. And this is something that you find in most masjids, if not all of them today, is a lack of imbalance. There's some masjids in which, saying hi, laughing, joking, sitting, talking, coffee and donuts, no problem. With women that aren't mahrams, vice versa. Simple. Mix, they may hug, they may laugh, they may dance together, Allahu Alam. And there are other masjids in which it's the exact opposite, in which a woman who, before she came into the masjid, And of course, we're not saying don't try to put on your best, don't try to attempt to follow the sunnah. But before she came in the masjid, she was cursing. All right? Cursing somebody out, talking to her boyfriend. This is reality. And she comes in the masjid and she wants to get by, and she crumbles up and balls herself up and looks down on the ground. Can I get by? And the brother says, oh, get out the way, sister coming through. And they push everybody against the wall. This is not a joke. You find this in masjids. And people think that this is the sunnah. They think that this is the sunnah. This is the proper understanding of jealousy, of there's no free mixing. Okay, and it's haram to have any type of interaction with the opposite sex. It's haram to speak of the opposite sex mutlaqan. You can't call a brother's house. A sister picks up the phone, says, she hangs up on you. That's it. It's haram for you to hear my voice, period. And if I do say that my husband's not home, I'll call back, then I'm flirting, I'm free mixing, I'm against the sunnah. Find a severe lack of balance. A severe lack of what? Of balance. Or when it comes to seeking knowledge and teaching knowledge, is it permissible for a woman's voice to be heard? Mufti, why do you have the sister's voice on the Hadith Disciple channel? Why is the sister making a documentary on your channel? Why do we hear her voice? Astaghfirullah. This is a reality. Everybody understand this? This is what? This is reality. So what's important is whatever the sunnah proves, according to all of the narrations, collectively, that's what we do. And what the sunnah does not prove, collectively, we don't say it's haram or disliked. Cultural values, societal values, this is a different story. Everybody understand this, in the best of all affairs are those which are in the middle. Are those which are what? In the middle. Everybody understand this? So you can take this hadith here and say that a woman's voice is clearly older. The Prophet said, she can't even say what? SubhanAllah. Not speak, but just say the dhikr of Allah. But you're going to be stuck when you find other hadith in which women said sentences and paragraphs into other companions. What the Prophet said is acknowledgement. Everybody understand this? So you have to gather all of the narrations and implement what? All of them as a what? As a whole. And also avoid fake piety. Avoid what? Fake piety, which is a widespread problem, unfortunately. And fake piety is not from the way of the Salaf as-Salih. Abadan. It may be from the way of people who say that they're following the Salaf, but it's not the way of the Salaf to have fake piety. They had real piety. They weren't afraid. They were shy. Everybody clear on this or not? And in most cases, when you take one athar from one tabi'i supporting something or not to do something, not say something, in most cases, and don't take this from me, please, you read it yourself. In most cases, 9 out of 10 times, you will find another athar supporting the exact opposite. That Hassan al-Basri ran from giving a fatwa. Don't give the fatwa. You people rush to give the fatwa. You're rushing to have your own majlis. So therefore, I'm not going to teach a class. Why are you teaching a class? Why is every video just you? The brother says, why do you have to videotape yourself? You're full of yourself. You're conceited. You want everything to be about yourself. Hassan al-Basri said this, anyone who sits in the majlis, and da-da-da-da-da. So why you get answering questions? Hassan al-Basri's statement is not dalil, it's not kitab, it's not sunnah, it's not ijma'. However, you turn another page or another book and you find Hassan al-Basri saying the exact opposite. Teach, give the fatwa, spread the ilm, teach the sunnah. Everybody understand this? You'll find the exact what? Opposite. This companion didn't eat for this amount of days. He fasted until his tongue was green. This person ate bread and water and so on and so forth. And then you find another athar in which a person is saying the exact opposite. To take the tayyib from the dunya. Spend the money for the good, permissible things in the dunya. And the list goes on. So let alone is it not a dalil, the statement of a tabi is not a dalil, but you'll find exact what? Opposite. So now you're being hypocritical now. And you're not having a thorough what? Comprehensive what? Understanding of what this one person said. Everybody understand this or not? And the same applies to the issue of the voice. One narration says this, but you have 10 other narrations that they'll neglect and abandon, or they might not even know about. Everybody clear on this or not? Right, moving forward. Another issue pertaining to this hadith is, what if a woman says subhanallah, and what if a man claps? The exact opposite. Or what is the permissibility or impermissibility of clapping at an event? Is it permissible to make applause? You go to many lectures today or MSAs and people, they'll clap. Is it permissible to clap? Is it haram to clap? If it's permissible to clap in the salah, but haram to clap what? Outside of the salah. And the list goes on. These are also from the masail or from the issues of this hadith. Also, if you clap in the salah, a man claps, does it break the salah? We know that he's supposed to say subhanallah, but does it break the salah? Did the Prophet tell them to make the salah again or not? Everybody understand this? Or, and this is with regards to this hadith, does this mean that if you do something that you're not supposed to, it doesn't break the salah? This hadith was originally, or relatively in the beginning, and not from the last hadith to talk about what and what not to do in the what? In the salah. So, a very important issue as well. Khairan, inshallah. Let's move forward. Chapter 23. The author says, Babu tasbih al-rajul wa tasfiq al-mar'ah idha nabahuma shay'un fi as-salah. Hadith Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu an an-nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam qala tasbih lil-rijali wa tasfiq lin-nisa. Chapter 23, the saying of Subhanallah is for men and clapping is for women only if they notice anything during salah. Hadith 244, narrated Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu. The Prophet ﷺ said, the saying Subhanallah is for men and clapping is for women. If something happens in a salah, the prayer, the men can invite the intention of the imam by saying Subhanallah and women by clapping their hands. We explained that already. We what? Explained that in the previous chapter. And as we said last night, this hadith clearly teaches us that there are gender roles in Islam. A man is not supposed to do what a woman does, and a woman is not supposed to do what a man does. They each have their own befitting roles that suit and befit them. No disrespect to either of the two genders or sexes. They both have their what? Befitting roles. And what's important is that we win as a team. As we win as a what? As a team. Man and woman. Husband and wife. And not I'm everything and you're nothing. I have the ego problem. We win as a what? As a team. Whether you're on the bench or whether you're starting. Whether you're the star quarterback, the tight end, the kicker, the punter. What's important is that we win the what? We win the Super Bowl. We get a ring. And the ring doesn't have any different color from the MVP or the one who's sitting on the what? The bench. Everybody clear this or not? For the wise person. Person gets traded to one team to another so he can be the star, and he wins what? He wins nothing. He leaves the team of a dynasty to another team, and he ends up getting what? Getting nothing because he wants to be the star. Everybody understand this? What's more important to you? Your personal stardom or you winning and fulfilling the goal as a whole? So men and women are supposed to what? Work together. The man's duty is not the woman's duty is not the what? Not the man's. And this applies to so many issues in the masjid. Should women be in the masjid? Can a woman have an administrative purpose in the masjid? Can a woman be on the board of the masjid? Everybody understand this? Can a woman teach a class in the masjid? Naam. Husband and wife. Can a woman pay the bill? Pay the electric bill, pay the gas bill? Can a husband babysit the baby? Everybody understand this? No. Yes, you have to. You can't. It's haram. It's this and it's that. Everybody clear this or not? When everybody, they work together, wash the dishes, dishwasher. When everybody does what? They work what? Together in the proper roles that suit them. That is the harmony that Allah has decreed and ordained. And when people overstep those boundaries, a man is too feminine, a woman is too masculine, that's the crazy, turbulent what? Lifestyle that we have. Everybody understand this or not? And this is extremely important, especially in 2017, in which the concept of masculinity, the concept of a woman being a woman is under heavy attack. From Muslims and non-Muslims. Under what? Heavy attack. Through sports. Don't think it's just a religious issue or a social issue. They'll attack it through sports. Getting women to play certain sports. Getting men to play certain sports. And the list goes on. Wallahu a'lam. Tayyib. Chapter 24. The author says, Bab al-amr aw bi tahsin as-salah wa itmamiha wal khushu'i fiha. Chapter 24 says the order to offer the salat prayer with all its rules and regulations and to perform it in a correct and perfect way with full submissiveness. It says the order to offer the salah, he says, bi tahsin as-salah. Literally meaning to beautify your prayer and to perfect your prayer. Wa itmamiha, to complete it. Wal khushu'i fiha, and to make it with submissiveness, not to rush, not to jump up and down, not to go from one movement to the next. Similar to what we had mentioned before. Hadith 245 says, Hadith Abi Hurairah radiyallahu an, anna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam qal, hal tarawna qiblati ha huna, فوالله ما يخفى علي خشوعكم ولا ركوعكم إني لأراكم من وراء ظهري. حديث أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال أقيموا الركوع والسجود فوالله إني لأراكم من بعدي وربما قال من بعد ظهري إذا ركعتم وسجدتم. Hadith 245 is narrated by Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do you consider or see that my face is towards the Qibla, Kaaba at Mecca? By Allah, neither your submissiveness nor your bowing is hidden from me. Surely I see from my back. Surely I see from my back. Hadith 246 is narrated by Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anh. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, perform the bowing and the prostrations in a correct and perfect way. By Allah, I see you from behind me. It says in parentheses, or from behind my back when you bow or prostrate. Hadith 245 and 246, narration of Abu Hurairah, narration of Anas, prove one thing. Is that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged, instructed the Sahaba to pray perfectly. To pray with submissiveness. To make ruku' properly. To make sujood properly. What's supposed to be straight should be straight. What's supposed to be bent should be bent. What's supposed to be spread out should be spread out. What's supposed to be kept tight together, etc. That's the main ruling from these two narrations. Is that when you pray, you cannot pray sloppily. You cannot just pray haphazardly. You cannot pray in a lethargic state. But make the salah in a proper way. And perfect each and every movement individually. And then perfect the salah as what? As a whole. Like constructing anything else. A car. Or making a dish. You make sure that you have quality control on every single part. Every item, every piece of your every ingredient, separately. Everybody understand this? I'm making a salad. The tomatoes have to be like this. Lettuce like that. The kale like that, etc. Then, as a whole, the salad has to be what? Blended perfectly as well. Everybody understand this? Individually, you make sure you have perfection. And as a what? Everybody understand this? Very important concept in Islam, which I'm just trying to make a tangible example by. Everybody understand this? Some people, they do one of the two. They'll focus on the thing as a whole, and they'll overlook the individual what? Pieces. Or some people, they'll look at the individual pieces and give a great deal of attention, but they'll neglect the what? Cohesive nature of the body. Everybody understand this? Before, during, and what? After. Are we clear on this or not? Before, during, and what? After. To make sure that my takbir is perfectly done. But also my takbir with my ruku'. All together. Everybody clear on this or not? That's the main fawaid, or the main rulings that we take from those two authentic prophetic narrations from Sahih Bukhari and from Sahih Muslim. Moving forward, Nawawi Sharh, he says, قال العلماء معناه أن الله تعالى خلق له صلى الله عليه وسلم إدراكا في قفاه يبصر به من ورائه وقد انخرقت العادة له صلى الله عليه وسلم بأكثر من هذا وليس يمنع من هذا عقل ولا شرع بل ورد الشرع بظاهره فوجب القول به. Nawawi says, the ulama say, Nawawi's quoting from the ulama, he says they say that Allah Azza wa Jal created a sense and an ability for the Prophet ﷺ to see from his neck, for him to see behind himself. Allah created something for him to see from behind his neck. And he says there are many miraculous things, paranormal things, phenomenal things, supernatural things that took place for the Prophet ﷺ that were greater than this. If you say, well, this is impossible, or this doesn't make sense, or how can this be? There were things that were what? Bigger and greater. Bigger and what? Bigger and greater. He then says, and this here isn't impossible. It's not impossible, not from the aspect of the aql, one's mind, or of the sharia. There's nothing from common sense or the sharia which stops this and which prevents this from being a what? A reality. Preventing it from being a what? A reality. He then says, but he says in the sharia, listen carefully to these golden words, in the shara, the deen, we have the mention of this happening. فَوَجَبَ الْقَوْلُ بِهِ. So therefore it's mandatory to adopt that. It's obligatory to believe that, to embrace that. Listen, this is a qaida now. Listen carefully. This is a qaida, a rule, a maxim of the deen. It's mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah. It isn't impossible intellectually nor spiritually. And if it's mentioned in Kitab and the Sunnah, then you must what? You have to believe in it. You no longer have an option. You no longer have a what? An option. Can you understand it? Is it natural? Is it normal? But it isn't against the aql. There's a huge difference between the two. Something which clearly goes against common sense and reason. Impossible. Is against logic. And then something which is supernatural, which the mind may not be able to grab and grasp, but the mind doesn't what? Reject. It's a golden maxim of the deen. Anything from the ghaib, from the unseen, the malaika, the jinn. Before all of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes. Everybody understand this? If it's mentioned in the Kitab and Sunnah, then it's authentic. It cannot go against the sound mind. The sound mind may not be able to grab it and grasp it and get it, but it doesn't what? Reject it. How can shaitan be in more than one place at one time? Everybody understand this? It doesn't necessarily, you can't get it based off of your worldly standards. But it isn't something which is totally what? No, out of reach. Everybody understand this or not? So therefore, the Prophet ﷺ had the ability to see in the salat from what? From his back. Alayhi salatu wasalam. He then says, قال القاضي قال أحمد بن حنبل رحمه الله تعالى وجمهور العلماء هذه الرؤيا رؤية بالعين حقيقة وفيه الأمر بإحسان الصلاة والخشوع. طيب. He says, Al-Qadi Iyadh, the Maliki scholar who explains Sahih Muslim before Nawawi, he said that Imam Ahmed said, he's quoting from Imam Ahmed, Nawawi is quoting from Qadi Iyadh, who's quoting from Ahmed. He says, what? Ahmed said this, along with most of the ulama, not all of them, is that this was a real view, a realistic view. It is not figurative. And the Prophet could actually what? See the companions behind him in the salah. Everybody understand this? That he had the ability to do what? See behind him. So this is from the khasa'is, from the specific and unique traits and qualities of the Prophet ﷺ. Is that in the salah he had the ability to do what? Look behind him. Everybody clear on this or not? And Nawawi says this hadith also teaches us that a person is to perfect his salah and perfect his khushu'. وإتمام الركوع والسجود وجواز الحلف بالله تعالى من غير ضرورة. It also teaches us that it's permissible to swear by Allah even if it isn't a necessity. It's permissible to swear by Allah even if you don't have to. Because the Prophet clearly says, فَوَاللَّهِ. He says, by Allah, I can see you. And the Prophet wasn't forced to swear by Allah. It's permissible to say, wallahi. It's not mandatory. So I don't have to unless we're having a fight. Say wallahi that you saw it. Say wallahi that you didn't take it. That's a different story. But we're just having a cordial conversation. No, wallahi akhi. Everybody understand this? It's permissible to do that. An-Nawawi then says, لكن المستحب تركه إلا لحاجة كتأكيد أمر وتفخيمه والمبالغة في تحقيقه وتمكينه من النفوس. He says here, however, that which is recommended is that a person avoids swearing by Allah unless it's something that's really, really important. Something really, really heavy and weighty. Something really dangerous and serious. And you want to place a great deal of emphasis, wallahi. And you shouldn't just throw around your swearing by Allah in a leisurely way, as many people do. Wallahi, wallahi. You sit with somebody for 5 minutes and say, wallahi, what? 100 times. Even though there are different types of yameen. Khair, moving forward. He says, وَعَلَى هَذَا يُحْمَلُ مَا جَاءَ فِي الْأَحَادِيثِ من الحلف وقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم إني أراكم من بعدي أي من ورائي كما في رواية أو رواية بقاء القاضي ويحمل بعضهم على بعد الوفاء وهو بعيد عن سياق الحديث. طيب خير إن شاء الله. Moving forward. Next chapter says, chapter 25, باب النهي عن سبق الإمام بركوع وسجود ونحوهما. حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أما يخشى أحدكم أو لا يخشى أحدكم إذا رفع رأسه قبل الإمام أن يجعل الله رأسه رأس حمار أو يجعل الله صورته صورة حمار. Chapter 25 says, it is forbidden to bow or prostrate, etc., ahead of or before the Imam. It is forbidden to bow or to prostrate, etc. Any other position there. So that means ahead or before the Imam. Hadith number 247 is narrated by Abu Hurairah as well. Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Isn't he who raises his head before the Imam afraid that Allah may transform his head into that of a donkey, or his face into that of a donkey?" Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrates that the Prophet ﷺ says, the one who raises his head before the Imam, is he not afraid, is he not scared that Allah Azza wa Jal will turn his head or turn his face into that of a what? Of a donkey. So this hadith clearly proves us is that it is a very dangerous and very grave thing to go before the Imam, to move before the Imam's movement. Something that many people take for granted. Many people, they do today. They move before the Imam. They make a position before the Imam. And this hadith teaches us that it is a severe threat. And that's a what? A grave threat. Everybody understand this? To move ahead of or before the Imam in any position, specifically what's mentioned in this hadith of coming out of the ruku'. طيب, Nawawi, he says here, هذا كله بيان لغرض تحريم ذلك والله أعلم. He says all of this proves that this is something which is grave and something which is severe. Now, when a person mentions that a person's head will be turned into that of a donkey, or his face will be turned into that of a donkey, how is this? How is this possible? We say what? It's from the unseen. Does it happen? Can it happen? Did it happen? We say it's from that which the Prophet told us about. And it's been authentically reported to him, and we believe in it, and we what? We embrace it. Perhaps I'll mention a brief story here that's quoted, Wallahu alam. Let's see here. Some of the ulama, they mention this narration with regards to speaking on the danger of mocking the religion. The danger of what? Mocking the religion. طيب. Let's see if we'll mention it here. Allahu alam. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. طيب. خير inshallah. We'll move forward. طيب, moving forward to the next chapter. Chapter number 26. And it says here in the book, chapter number 28. So there's no 26 and there's no 27. Why is the book missing the proper numbering of the chapters? We've explained that many times before. Khayr inshallah. Chapter number 28, the author says, straightening of the rows for the congregational salah, prayer and its iqamah. باب تسبية الصفوف وإقامتها. حديث أنس رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال سووا صفوفكم فإن تسوية الصفوف من إقامة الصلاة. حديث أنس رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أقيموا الصفوف فإني أراكم خلف ظهري. حديث النعمان بن بشير رضي الله عنهما قال قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تسون صفوفكم أو لا يخالفن الله بين وجوهكم أو لا يخالفن الله بين وجوهكم. حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لو يعلم الناس ما في النداء والصف الأول ثم لم يجدوا إلا أن يستهموا عليه لاستهموا ولو يعلمون ما في التهجير لاستبقوا إليه ولو يعلمون ما في العتمة والصبح لأتوهما ولو حبوا. Chapter 28 says, straightening of the rows for the congregational salah and its iqamah. And note here, he doesn't say bab wal amri bi taswiyat as-sufuf, the command to straighten the rows. Nor does he say bab Wujub taswiyat sufuf. The obligation of what? Straightening the rows. Why doesn't he say it like that? Why didn't he word it like that? We've mentioned that what? Before, perhaps. Because the Prophet ﷺ, in the first two narrations, both reported by Anas, the Prophet ﷺ gives a clear command. A clear what? Command. The first narration of Anas is number 248. It says, narrated by Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ said, straighten your rows, as the straightening of rows is essential for iqamat as-salah. Says in parentheses, a perfect and correct prayer. Hadith 249, narrated Anas radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ said, straighten your rows, for I see you from behind my back. Then we have Hadith 250, listen very carefully. It's narrated by An-Nu'man ibn Bashir radiallahu anhuma. The Prophet ﷺ said, straighten your rows, or Allah will alter your faces. Or Allah will alter your faces. Then last but not least, we have a hadith which one may say, what is the appropriate or the relative nature of it in this chapter, which we'll get there inshallah, hopefully. Is narrated by Abu Hurairah. It's the last hadith of the chapter, 251. It says, narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if the people knew the reward for pronouncing the adhan and for standing in the first row and congregational salat prayer and found no other way to get that except by drawing lots, they would draw lots. And if they knew the reward of the dhuhr afternoon prayer and the early moments of its stated time, they would race for it, go early if they knew the reward of Isha late evening and the reward for Isha late, they would Fajr and prayer and congregation, they would come to offer them even if they had to crawl. Tight. Let's break down the chapter heading and the hadiths, inshallah. 4 narrations in the chapter. It says, Babu Taswiyat Sufuf, the chapter of making taswiyah. And the word taswiyah has several meanings. Sometimes the word taswiyah means to straighten. Sometimes the word taswiyah means to fix, which is related to straighten. And sometimes the word taswiyah pertains to perfecting, which also is attached to straightening. Something that's supposed to be what? Straight. You break your arm. You go to the doctor and say, fix me, doc. He does what with your arm? La. What is he supposed to do, Saleh? The bone is supposed to be what? With the sound effect. Everybody understand this or not? The cast is made to do what? Not keep it straight. To put it back into its straightness. Because it was broken. Everybody understand this? So fixing something, straightening something, perfecting something are all in one what? Ring. One circle. Everybody clear this or not? So to perfect something. Everybody clear this or not? So it says, Babu taswiyat sufuf, to make taswiyah of the rows and of the ranks. As we know, every Muslim knows that Muslims are supposed to pray in what? Straight. Rows and ranks. Everybody clear on this? In this chapter, the author is saying that you have to do what? Straighten those rows, perfect those rows, fix those rows. Everybody clear on this or not? The correct view is that straightening the rows is not an option. It's not a preference. It's mandatory. As was the madhab of Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, explained by Hadith al-Marjan and Fath al-Bari. And that the Prophet ﷺ's statement, if you don't straighten your rows, then ... clearly proves that that thing is no longer what? Recommended. How could it be recommended? And there's a threat for Allah to change your faces. Another narration says that Allah will separate your faces. Just like the hadith about the donkey. If you lift your head before the imam, go down before the imam, Allah could change your face to a donkey for something that's only makruh. Everybody clear this now? It's only what? It's only recommended. No, that is no longer strong. So the madhab of Imam al-Bukhari and of others, they have the view that straightening the rows is what? Mandatory. And the imam who does not straighten the rows is sinful. He's atham. Most of the ulama held the view that straightening the rows is only recommended. It's not obligatory. Now you may say this, why? Why do they say that it's only recommended? They say because they say what? فَإِنَّ تَسْفِيَةَ الصُّفُوفِ مِنْ إِقَامَةِ الصَّلَاةِ. They say because straightening the rows is from the iqamah of the salah. Min itmam as-salah. Min tamam as-salah. Perfecting the salah. And it's not necessarily what? Essentially what? Mandatory. Obviously that doesn't make any sense. Whereas Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. Establish the prayer. The prayer being mandatory. Congregation being mandatory. The Prophet said, do your khushu' correctly. Do this, do that. Because I can see you. So there's certain things that we are made to perfect. It doesn't mean that it's optional anymore. And there's certain things which are subrogatory. Which are what? Subrogatory. And they are optional. And this also means of what? Perfection. Or completion. Everybody understand this or not? Or what? Completion. Everybody understand this or not? Having paint on your wall, is that mandatory? Do you need that to live in the house or the apartment? Having paint on your wall? No. But having a wall is, you have to protect you from the heat, from the wind, from the rain, the cold. So the builder says, I've completed the building. It's what? It's complete. Meaning he built the walls, he put in the beams and everything. He's completed it. And another says, I've done what? I've completed or perfected it. Meaning the paint, the decoration, kullu shay. Everybody understand this or not? One thing doesn't mean that the other thing isn't obligatory. Everybody clear on this or not? So the correct view is that the rows must be what? Straightened. For two things. The first reason why is that the Prophet ﷺ commanded for it to be done. So, it's a fi'l amr. Secondly is, the Prophet ﷺ informed us of the consequence of not doing it, which is not a slight and easy thing. For one's face to be altered, or one's face and one's heart to be separated from his brother's face and heart. Everybody clear on this or not? So that's the correct view with regards to that in brief. The next issue is, how is one to straighten the rows? And we have a third dalil as well, whereas that was what the Sahaba did. When the Prophet gave that command, they implemented that. They started, they moved towards it. Everybody understand this or not? And there are many athar of the Salaf al-Salih with regards to straightening the rows. And they wouldn't need the salah. They wouldn't start the salah until the rows were straight, until they were fixed. Umar radiallahu anhu used to send a man to check each row. Everybody understand this in other narrations as well. That's in brief. That's what? In brief. Now, how do you straighten the rows? Do you have to put your heel next to your brother's heel? Does you have to put your shoulder next to your brother's shoulder? What's meant by leaving no gaps between you and your brother? No gaps between the heels, or meaning a big gaping gap? Everybody understand this? And that's another issue as well with regards to leaving no gaps. Because straightening the row does not mean what? Leaving no gaps. Leaving gaps does not necessarily mean what? Straightening the row. Everybody understand this? However, we're studying hadiths from Bukhari and Muslim. So we take in what's selected from Bukhari and Muslim. The other narrations in Sahih Bukhari, and Sahih Muslim, and Sunan Abi Dawood that talk about other issues are not going to come up in this book, as we have explained many, many times before. Everybody clear on this or not? So the row could have no gaps, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's what? Straight. And the row could be straight as an arrow, but it may have what? Gaps. The other hadiths teach us that we are to also fix the what? The gaps as well. Everybody clear on this? So what is meant by this? A gap. Does it mean that there's a tangible hole, a separation between you and your brother, your feet and his shoulder? Or for the toes to be connected like this and there to be space between the heels? Is that a gap? This is also another issue, unfortunately, that has become one of great controversy. Great controversy. And we have people who are zealots on both sides. People who, waliyadhu billah, you try to get close to them, they'll walk away from you in the salah. Now listen here to what ignorance does to the one who has it. Or as some of the older brothers from Guyana say, they say first class ignorance. A person, he has a phone. The phone is ringing. On the phone is some crazy musical tone, a hit, a hot single, right? Going off in the salah. Tayyib. He doesn't move. He can't silence the phone. He can't send the call to voicemail because it's haram to do what? Move in the salah. But you try to put your foot next to him and he'll do what? Maybe the electric slide in the one, in the salah. He'll totally what? Just get away from you quickly. Okay, so you're praying and they say, oh, subhanAllah, maybe he didn't see me, or maybe he had an itch. And you move a little closer and there's what? He moves again. Tayyib. Everybody understand this or not? Now, the brother who continues to move his foot, should he do that? That's not a discussion. Is he right or wrong? But the fact is, he keeps moving and the brother keeps getting what? Further and further away. I have to move not to keep my foot from touching his foot, but the phone ringing is what? Haram. I have to be, everybody, it's first class what? Ignorance. There's second class, there's business class, this is first class ignorance. And there are many other examples of this. There are many other what? Examples of this. Everybody understand this? The Muslims, unfortunately, they go to extreme lengths in so many things. And that actual thing that they're going extreme in is the exact opposite. But the thing they're supposed to, they what? Easy. Everybody understand this? So, we have some brothers, when they pray, they have maybe 3 or 4 inches between them and their brothers. And if you try to put your foot, you're extreme, you're Wahhabi, you're this, you're that, you're that. They give you a list of names and titles, unfortunately. And then we have other brothers, they may have the exact opposite practice. That straightening the rows and leaving no gaps means to step on your brother's foot. To literally step on his toes, to put your heel on his heel. Or to physically move in the salah and force the brother to fix his foot. Or they'll grab you. Everybody understand this? And physically enforce the straightening rows upon a person who doesn't want to do that according to his understanding. The toes may be together, but no, the heels have to be together. And he forces it and jams his way on his brother's foot. Everybody understand this? Or the concept of another mistake with regards to this issue is the widespread ignorance of people who are not supposed to straighten the rows. The imam's job is to straighten the rows and to make the final look. When you're in the salah or before the salah, labas, you make sure your foot, the imam says, istawu, tarasu, i'tadilu, labas. He's speaking to you, straighten your rows. But it's not your job. Akhi, you move over. Wait, hold on 1 second. No, you come up. Many brothers, they do this. That is the job of the what? The imam. Your job is to make sure that your right foot and your left foot are straight without a gap to the best of your ability. The next man, the third, the fourth, the fifth is the job of the what? The imam. Everybody understand this? And another mistake is for the imam not to make a deputy. He should entrust someone to check the what? The other rows. He may have 20 people, 20 rows, 50, 100 people, maybe Jummah, Eid. And he is to assign a brother to do what? Check the row. So this goes to show us that you should know who you're praying with. You should know your brothers by their kunyas, by their names. Abu Abdurrahman, Kada. And the brothers that are praying with you in your community should have the basic what? Fiqh. Not too harsh, not too soft. Not too gentle, not too violent. But a perfect what? Balance of this is the sunnah. And if you have a problem with it because of your culture or your madhab, that's what? That's fine. But here in this masjid, this is what we're going to do. We can't impose it on you. We can't force it on you. But there are certain things that we are responsible for what? For doing, huh? It's not from the sunnah to just go and be rambunctious. But it is your masjid, so it's like your what? It's my house. I'm the imam here. These are the rules. If you don't like it, I'm not going to hit you or kick you or spit on you. But I'm going to say, Akhi, can you please move over? Inshallah. And if I see that you're stubborn, you don't want to do it, la bas. But it is my job, my responsibility to do what? And enforce certain things within my jurisdiction. Within my what? My jurisdiction. It's very important, guys. And not to overstep my jurisdiction, nor to neglect it. Everybody understand? So the imam is supposed to straighten the rows. You make sure that your foot is right. And the imam's job is with regards to the rest. Everybody understand this? Khairan, inshallah. So therefore, how to straighten the rows, what's the proper understanding, so on and so forth. We'll mention them in our next class by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best what's correct. We ask Him to inspire us therewith. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.